You're listening to Covering the Field with your host, Joe Ellison.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Covering the Field, the weekly program that analyzes all sports, handicaps them, and makes and reviews predictions. I'm your host, Joe Ellison, and today we're going to talk about pro football, college football, Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, and our You Got Hosed segment. We'd like to remind you listeners to email us at coveringthefield@gmail.com. Please give us your feedback, tell us your You Got Hosed stories, and visit our coveringthefield.com website. Find us on Twitter at coveringfield. And a special thank you to all the firefighters and first responders battling the Nevada and California wildfires. Now, kicking things off this week, I'd like to introduce our football expert, Big Richard Martin. How are you doing today, Richard?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, Joe. Big
Rich, 3 weeks are in the books in the National Football League. What caught your eye or impressed you the most last week?
Well, it has to start with, how about those Cowboys? I mean, they're 2-1. They could very easily be 3-0 with that game, that Monday night game. That offense is just looking great. Dak Prescott, as he stays healthy, I mean, we're going to be talking about Dallas way into January this year. And what about the Saints?
That was music to my ears. Thank you very much. Yeah, what about those Saints?
Well, they just, they were, underdog going into New England, and they just went out there and pounded the Patriots. I mean, they made that rookie quarterback, Mac Jones, look like a rookie quarterback. And, they're keeping the ball. They're not turning the ball over. Jameis Winston is just doing a great job with that team.
What caught my eye was Baltimore Raven Justin Tucker set an NFL record 66-yard field goal to win the game against the Detroit Lions, surpassed the 64-yarder kicked by Matt Prater.
Absolutely. But I was watching that game, Joe, and I was thinking, why don't you just get like a 7-footer? Doesn't have to be athletic. Just stand in front of that goalpost, and you could have just knocked it out. If Detroit had a 7-footer, I mean, they could have just sit out there and and then do the Matumbo no, and they would have had the win.
Yeah, or even at the line of scrimmage, maybe get some guy just to stand up there.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, Matt Prater tried a 68-yarder at the end of the first quarter against Jacksonville. Came up short, had it returned for a touchdown.
Exactly. I'm surprised they didn't have somebody back there, just to knock the ball down.
And just to get there, Baltimore had to convert a 4th and 19 with like 25 seconds left. No timeouts to set up the winning kick. It was pretty amazing. But, I mean, being a Detroit fan must be tough.
Oh, yeah, like my Uncle Mike.
Yeah. Well, the Lions are 0-3 now. They've never even been to a Super Bowl, and they keep finding new ways to lose games. It must be brutal. And you say your Uncle Mike.
Yeah, he's the one that puts $100 on the Detroit every year, and Vegas has built a lot of great stuff with all this money throughout the years out there.
Well, it must be good not to be a Detroit fan right now.
I don't know. Things are looking up. Who do they play this week?
I don't know. They are getting a little better, I suppose.
Chicago.
They
play Chicago, and so maybe things, with that potent offense in Chicago, maybe they can get a win this week, unless they can come up with a big field goal at the end again.
Also last week, defending NFL champion Tampa Bay, immobile quarterback Tom Brady led his team in rushing in a loss to the Rams. Two-time defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs had turnovers on their first 3 possessions and won very late in a loss at home to the Chargers, as they now sit at 1-2. And Cleveland sacked Chicago quarterback Justin Fields in his debut 9 times.
Right. Myles Garrett was in the backfield so much, I thought maybe he had a shot playing quarterback.
Yeah. Well, the Bears finished with a grand total of 1 yard passing. So what do you think about Justin Fields' situation?
Well, what does Bigfoot and Justin Fields' NFL touchdown dance have in common?
I don't know.
No one's seen either one of them.
Nice.
So, I mean, he's having a tough start. I told you that was one of my picks, and, C Money, our producer, I'm surprised he didn't have me on the show this week because, his Bears went down. But, Justin Fields just a rookie. He's got to get it together. Mac Jones is having problems. Lawrence doesn't look all that great. I mean, it's tough to be a new quarterback in the league. It's proven. You need time to develop. And, Nagy was all, he knew that he wanted to not start him. He wanted to start Andy Dalton, and everybody's been, oh, we want Justin Fields. We want Justin Fields. And now they got Justin Fields, and they're like, we want Andy Dalton. We want Nick Foles. We don't know what they're doing in Chicago, but they got to get it together. It's week 3.
So other than that pick, how did your predictions do last week?
In the NFL, it was 2-3 again, so I had a good week in the NFL.
Well, I went 3-2 on the show. I won with Tennessee, Green Bay, and Arizona, but lost with New England and Seattle. In respect to this week's games, which ones are you most looking forward to?
Well, it's Sunday night. TB12 goes back to New England. It's going to be a great atmosphere there. I mean, even Bill Belichick had a couple comments, in which he never says anything. So it's going to be good. And don't think that Tom Brady doesn't have a chip on his shoulder and want to go smash these New England Patriots, who just lost to the Saints at home. You're telling me you can have Tom Brady or Jameis Winston. I'm taking Tom Brady, and I'm taking Tampa Bay this week for sure.
Well, actually, there's a lot of really good games this week. Undefeated Carolina at Dallas. Undefeated Arizona at the Rams. Seattle at San Francisco. Baltimore at undefeated Denver. Pittsburgh at Green Bay. And undefeated Las Vegas at the Chargers. And we have, like you said, that reunion with Tom Brady and Andy Reid going back to Philadelphia.
There you go. I'm wondering if they give him a tribute down there in New England when he comes in. I'm sure they'll do something. There's still a lot of number 12s up. If you look at that Foxborough Stadium, there's a lot of number 12 jerseys still out there, and they love Tom.
Yeah, they'll be cheering for him until the game starts.
And then they'll be saying bad things about him at that point.
Yeah. And to that end, which games are you going to wager on this weekend?
Well, I'm gonna have to give a shout out to Charles out here, the NFL expert. I mean, he picked the Carolina and he picked his Arizona Cardinals, and they're both just off to a fantastic start. He had great picks on those. But what about the Rams and Cardinals this week? The under/over is 55 in that. Tyler Murray is 0-4 against the Rams in his career, so he has not had much success. So the spread is -4 right now. The Rams are giving up 4, but the under/over is 55. Now, the Rams' defense is number 9 in the league, and the Cardinals' defense is number 11 in the league on points scored. So I don't think that that's going over 55. I think it's still going to be in both the teams will have the 20, and it's going to be a good game. They both have good defense, and they both have great quarterbacks.
You got more than that one?
Sure. What about the Broncos are at home against Baltimore? Now, Baltimore's returning 3 players that didn't start last week against Detroit because they were under the COVID protocol. So they're getting 3 new starters out there. And Denver typically has trouble with mobile quarterbacks. And there ain't nobody more mobile than Lamar Jackson in the whole NFL. So he has 731 yards passing. He has 235 yards rushing. He's leading his team in passing and rushing. He has 5 touchdowns, but he does have 3 interceptions. So Denver defense has only given up 26 points this whole year. So I think that the Denver defense in a low-scoring game, I think they get it done. I'm taking the Broncos 4 weeks in a row. I'm going to ride those Broncos until they show me something different.
All right. Next up.
Well, how about those Dallas Cowboys? They're only giving up 4.5 to Carolina. So, Vegas has adjusted the odds. They think Carolina's defense, they have only given up, I think, very, very little amount of points. I think they're second league in points given up. They're playing good defense, but there's nobody better than Dak Prescott right now. I mean, that offense is rolling. I love what they're doing out there. The under-over is 50.5. I think we'll have some defense in there. So I'm going to take the under, and I'm also going to take Dallas with the 4.5. Give them the 4.5 up.
All right.
And then let's just move into the Raiders. They're going to the LA Chargers home field at SoFi, where the Super Bowl is going to be played this year. And according to my family, which I have multiple Raider fans, they think that because the Raiders are 3-0, they're already getting their tickets. They're all going down to SoFi. They're flying down to SoFi to see the Raiders in the Super Bowl. And let's just don't get crazy, because Raiders are 3-0. And you know how many years it's been since the Raiders have been 3-0?
I don't know. Not too long ago, has it?
19 years.
Oh, it has been.
Our producer
Okay.
was probably playing on the playground during that time when they were 3-0 the last time. I mean, it might have even been Ken Stabler might have been quarterback at that time.
How did that season end up? Do you know?
I don't know, but I know they haven't won the Super Bowl since Marcus Allen. So
no, they did not. Well,
so that's my NFL picks for the week.
Okay.
Joe. What do you have?
Well, I like tomorrow night's game, Cincinnati -7.5 against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has been pretty consistent. They haven't covered any of their games, and they've lost them all by double digits. And it's only 7.5. I do like Miami, -2 against Indianapolis. I've been betting against Indianapolis, having success.
Right. Carson Wentz is definitely banged up, both ankles. He definitely didn't look mobile at all. I think that's a good pick.
Yeah, and I'm sure their backup, even healthy, isn't going to be much of an improvement. And it's only 2 points. Miami is favored.
Well, maybe they get Tebow to come back. I mean, he's out. He doesn't have a job right now.
Not at the moment. And I did like Tennessee -7.5 at the Jets. I'm a little concerned about the receiving situation for Tennessee with A.J. Brown out and Julio Jones banged up. But the Jets, they pushed one game according to my numbers and didn't cover the other ones. Got completely shut out last week.
Yeah.
They don't look very good
Yeah,
either.
they didn't do very good in Mile High, that's for sure.
And those are my picks.
What about, are you going to go with make a New England pick? I mean, since Tom Brady's left, the Patriots are only 8-11 since he's left, and they're 8-11 against the spread. I mean, they have one win this year against the low-flying Jets, so they're not flying at any type of altitude. I think that's just a lock this week with Tom Brady going.
Oh, you use the LOCK word. That's the kiss of death. But
Yeah, well.
I do like the Buccaneers this week.
Good.
Definitely. I'm not betting the Patriots, that's for sure. Now it's time to move on to the college ranks. What happened last week that was significant in the world of college football?
Well, it was Notre Dame and Wisconsin at Soldier Field. I mean, Notre Dame just laid the wood to Wisconsin. I mean, Jack Cohen goes out, and they still can't get the job done. The backup quarterback, Drew Payne, came in, and he played better than the starting quarterback for Wisconsin. He did, what's his name? Graham Mertz. He has 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions on the year with 2 pick sixes. So, I mean, he had a terrible day.
It was actually a close game until the fourth quarter, though, right? It was only like 3 or 4.
Special teams came in, and
Right. And defense, right.
Yeah, they stopped Wisconsin. They'll hold them to a field goal. On the ensuing kickoff, they ran it back for a touchdown, and then they threw this pick six, and the game got out of control.
Anything else catch your eye?
Well, yeah, the ACC. I mean, Clemson loses at North Carolina State. I mean, you think Clemson's going to put it together? I mean, they've been a top 4 team for how many years now? I mean, so 6
years in a row they had been in the 14 playoff.
Right, and they're ranked 25 right now in the top 25. So yeah, they're falling faster than a Bitcoin stock market.
They spent 97 consecutive weeks in the top 10. Now they're ranked number 25, eliminated from the championship consideration with 2 losses.
Absolutely, you got Georgia Tech. They had a big win against North Carolina. NC State won, like we just talked about, and Louisville and Wake Forest are number 1 and 2 in the ACC right now, and they got a game coming up.
Well, anything else catch your eye?
Well, the injury report. Let's look at the injury. I mean, Clemson got banged up bad on defense. Okay, so they lost Brian Breeze, their star defensive lineman, outside linebacker. He tore his ACL. He's out for the year. Brian Breeze is their middle linebacker, the Mike linebacker. He goes out with a shoulder injury. He's questionable this week. And also, Will Shipley went out in overtime. He had a lower leg injury. It's not considered to be season ending, but he will be out this week. He'll be out for a few weeks for sure. Will Shipley was their 5-star recruit. Coming out of college, he's the number 1 guy they picked, and he's been their starting running back. So big injuries. Also in Arkansas, their senior quarterback, KJ Jefferson, went out with a lower leg injury, and Trek Burks, their receiver, went out. So they have a big game coming up against Georgia this week. Both of them are practicing, so that's good. According to Sam Pittman, in his interview, he said that they're both practicing, so they're a little sore, a little banged up. But Arkansas has had some pretty rough schedules with owning those 2 Texas teams, Texas A&M and Texas.
Well, there's one Nevada guy that is a big key loss. Elijah Cooks, the wide receiver, done for the season. Big blow there. But one bright side is he is eligible to play again next year. He can come back for a 6th year. Hopefully he can.
Well, Carson Strong won't be there because he's way on his way to the NFL. And
yes.
I think that's going to add to what his decision makes will be on that.
Well, maybe he can turn pro too, but it's going to be tough with an injury, being a wide receiver, getting picked as high as you would probably deserve to be picked.
Right, and he has a big game against Boise at Boise State this week. So this is his chance to get some national recognition and, put his numbers up there for consideration for a higher draft pick and move up the board.
Yep. What I saw last week, that Minnesota losing at home to Bowling Green as a 31-point favorite, they didn't even have a money line on that game that I saw. That's how big of a spread it was.
Right. Yeah. Then they need to row a lot more than they were rowing in Minnesota for losing it to Bowling Green at home. That's going to be tough to overcome that. That's for sure.
Number 14, Iowa State lost to Baylor. Now they have 2 losses. They were ranked number 7 in the country when the season started. Right. Their hopes of a championship are finished, what little they had. And Oregon State crushed USC.
Yeah, do they have a coach? I mean, who's calling the plays?
I don't know. It was one of their defense coordinator, offensive coordinator. It doesn't matter.
I probably should have that Keaton Salvik, the quarterback. He might be calling the plays. I don't know who's calling the plays out there. USC, they're a mess right now. They're going to have to rebuild for sure.
So how did your college predictions go in week 4?
Not good. I was 6-8 against the spread, and 10-4 actually the money line picks. So a little bit better, but Vegas and the point spread got me this week. That's for sure.
And what are your picks this week?
Well, we have to start with the SEC. There's 2 mega games going on right now. You have Alabama hosting Ole Miss, and you have Georgia hosting Arkansas. Both teams' combined record are 15-0. So these are 2 powerhouse games that we're going to look at. So right now we have to look. What caught my eye on the game is, Nick Saban had Lane Kiffin in 2014 as his assistant offensive coordinator, assistant coach. And also Kirby Smart had Sam Pittman, the coach of Arkansas. He was their offensive line coach from 2017 to 2019. So, there's a lot of good coaching here. They both know each other very well, and I think these are going to be 2 well-played games.
So you're thinking about taking the points? Is that what you're saying?
I'm always thinking about taking points, Joe. I love the points in these games. One thing that caught my eye is Nick Saban gave a compliment to Lane Kiffin. He said that when he came in 2014, he was actually mentoring him to change the Alabama offense to the run-pass option and more spread-out offense, where Alabama traditionally has been a run powerhouse team. So actually, Nick Saban gave a really good compliment out to Lane Kiffin about how he did, and he's doing the same thing in Ole Miss with their star quarterback, Matt Carroll. So at that game, the game is it's at 80 points under and over. That is crazy amount of points. I think just blind, you throw a dart and probably can hit that game and just say it's going to go under 80 points under over. But Alabama started off at 19-point spread. It's moved all the way down. It got bet all the way down to 14.5 right now. Offense, if you look at their statistics, Joe, they're dead even. Their offensive statistics. So it goes down to defense, and we would look at that Florida game, and I think that's why everybody's betting taking those points, because Florida pretty much manhandled that defense, but they did it against the run, and Matt Carroll's more of a passing offense, and I think that goes into the strength of Alabama's defenses, their defensive backs, and their pass rush. I think if you run the ball on them, they can. I know it's going to be a great game. 14.5, I'm taking Alabama until they prove me wrong.
You're going to lay the points.
I'm going to lay the points in that one.
Okay, well, I'm probably going to lose because I'm going to take the points. It seems like my picks are usually terrible. So you probably have a winner. Mississippi is the highest scoring team in the country. And you're right about Bama. They can't stop the run, but they haven't been able to run the ball themselves either a whole lot.
Right. And so you look at the nation, 70% of the people are taking that point spread right now, the betting in the betting world.
Yes, and I would say that Arkansas seems like too many points too, 18.5.
I know. Well, let's go into that game, okay? It's 18. They're hosting Arkansas. Like you said, Arkansas coming off a big win last week against Texas A&M. Middle linebacker was saying, we own Texas, we own Texas, we own Texas. Well, now let's see if they could do what they do when they come to big boys of Georgia, because that's one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the nation. They're 6th against passing, they're 17th against the rushing in the nation, and they're 5th against points allowed. So they definitely can get it going on the defensive side of the ball in Georgia. They're going to have a tough task, but I'm telling you, the Sam Pittman is for real coach. He's got those kids playing good. He has 4 elite running backs in this, running backs in the stable. He has 4 good running backs, and KJ Jefferson. We talked about how he got hurt. He was saying he's playing. He said Saturday after it, I'm playing against Georgia. I'm playing. So he's definitely going to play. Just got to see he is a mobile quarterback. He's a 245-pound quarterback, and he can run or pass. He's actually leading the team second in rushing. And he has much comparisons to Cam Newton type of quarterback. So he's big, he's strong, he can run, he can throw. The question is, how good is that wheel of his?
Any other games you're looking at?
Yeah, let's talk about Cincinnati. Cincinnati is at Notre Dame. And, Cincinnati reminds me of Ronnie Dangerfield. Can somebody give these guys some respect? I'm telling you right now, they are just rolling this year. They look great. But they're 2-point favorites at Notre Dame. Jack Cohen, we talked about, he went down with that injury. He is going to play. He has an ankle injury. It's a soft. They said soft tissue ankle injury. I don't know if you have any soft tissue in your ankle, but obviously it's not a ligament or a tendon that they're worried about. So I think we're going to go ahead and say Cincinnati, give that 2 points up.
All right. And what else we got now?
All right, what about Michigan?
Yes.
Michigan, the number 14 team in the nation. They're going to Wisconsin. And like you said, Wisconsin played good defense, but they did move the ball against them. Michigan came out gangbusters last week against Rutgers, and they were up 20-3. It looks like they were going to cover. It looked like it was going to be a 40-6 game. Rutgers made some adjustments, and they were able to run the ball. So I think Wisconsin's going to have to try to run the ball. But let's go with Cade McNamara, our Reno guy. He has 3 touchdowns, no interceptions against Graham Mertz has 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. I'm going to go with stay with Michigan. Jim Harbaugh goes into Camp Riddle Station and gets the win out there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it looks like Michigan's best year in a bunch of years. So
I know, and they just can't wait to play Ohio State.
Yeah, they'll have their chance.
They sure will. And I'll have some other bets. I'll put them on the website. I'll have some other tricky Ricky picks. I'll put them on the website. We definitely got to talk about Nevada at Boise State. That's your team. Carson Strong, can he get it done this week? He's going into Boise. They've played many games in Boise. They actually played, I think, Joe, you should know this. There's a Nevada fan. They play a lot of bowl games up there, right? In Boise. They're very familiar with that stadium. They're very familiar with that area. The coach is very, very confident going up there. I think they go in there. The money line is 205 right now, so you can get 2-1 odds. You can put $50 and win $100 on that game right there. I'm going to take the money line. I'm saying Nevada goes. Let's go Carson Strong.
Yeah, I'm going to take a shot on Nevada, too, just for the heck of it. Seems like Boise, they get up like last week. They were up 20-7, and they just blew it in the fourth quarter against Oklahoma State. Even if Boise has a lead, it seems like they'll give it up, and it'll at least be close at the end.
Right.
So I like the points.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go on, and I'm going to take Syracuse plus 4.5 at Florida State. I'm having success betting against Florida State.
Yeah.
It might have been my only winner last week.
Florida State was like Baltimore, where they lost 18 in a row. I think they're going to give them a run for Baltimore Orioles, that was.
And I'm getting points. I can't believe it. And Connecticut getting 14 at Vanderbilt. Connecticut put this new quarterback in. I don't know why I've been watching this team. And they've improved quite a bit. Vanderbilt shouldn't be favored by 14 against anybody that I can see. They're just, would they lose like 62-0 last week to Georgia? So
yeah, I mean Georgia is just
I know how
rolled
good
over them.
Georgia
So I think
is,
that even their offensive, because of that game against Vanderbilt, I think their offensive stats that are inflated because of that. I mean, Georgia runs the ball. They have JT Daniels out there, the USC transfer. I think that game's going to go low. I mean, I like Arkansas with the points in that game a lot.
Okay. Well, was that it for your picks?
That's it for my picks this week. I'll put
Okay.
some more on the website. And be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. The Twitter page, I think, is getting up. So go ahead and send us some questions. We definitely would like to interact with you guys.
Well, thank you, Big Richard. And we'll have you on later on the You Got Host segment.
All right, thank you.
With the major leagues set to start the playoffs next week, let's spend some time with our baseball analyst, Ronnie McKinnon. How's it going today, Ronnie?
Joe, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. The regular season ends Sunday. What races are still in doubt?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, actually. There's a lot going on. New York and Boston are the 2 wild card teams right now, but Seattle's only a half a game back. Oakland's 3.5 back. Actually, Toronto, I missed, is 1 game back. So, wow, it's pretty crazy right there. Obviously, the White Sox got the Central wrapped up. When it comes to the West, Houston looks like they're going to win that division. It's not done yet. Seattle's 4.5 back, but there's only 5 games to go. But Seattle is right there in the wild card, and like I had mentioned, so yeah, that. It's crazy what's going on in these races now. When you go to the National League, Philadelphia 3.5 back of the division from Atlanta, so no wild card shot. They either win the division or they're out. St. Louis is, with their 17-game winning streak, is now the 2nd wild card team behind the Dodgers. Milwaukee's got that division in the Central, and LA is 2 behind the Giants for that division with 5 games to go. So it's pretty exciting.
So St. Louis is already clinched a wild card berth.
As of last night.
They cannot be caught. So it'll be either San Francisco or LA against the Cardinals.
That's correct.
In the wild card.
That's correct.
Okay.
And you're right. And either way, San Francisco or LA will be at home for that game, having the better record than St. Louis.
Okay. And you said Houston's almost clinched, so they'll get in, it looks like.
Yes.
Oakland, that's my favorite team. I've been paying attention to them. They're falling apart. They'd have to leapfrog 3 teams in order to get to the second spot in the wild card. That's not going to happen.
Actually, 4 teams: New York, Boston, Toronto, and Seattle.
Well, that to be the first wild card, I guess.
Right.
To be the second wild card, okay.
Right,
It's
correct.
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either.
So
Yeah,
Seattle's
is-
a pretty amazing story,
Yeah,
huh?
it is pretty amazing, and I like Seattle ultimately, and Toronto is still right in it, and we know how good they've been, but I really ultimately see it being the Yankees and the Sox in as the wild card teams.
And
but-
that's as it stands right now. That's what it would be if they
As it stands now, right.
right. So that's what's favored to happen. And I guess we have to ask San Francisco, LA, who's going to win the division? I mean, San Francisco up by 2, certainly favored. Do you give LA a shot? We know
Sure,
you
they have
are a
shot.
Dodger fan.
They have a shot, and I really, as much as I hate to say it, and I won't bet on the Dodgers or against them, especially, but I think the Giants will probably win that division. It's tough to say. I mean, the Dodgers have to play Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's already clinched, so they might not, play all their top players.
Yeah, I
saving
think
them.
St.
So
Louis just swept them, right? So
they swept them.
Milwaukee
in
doesn't-
Milwaukee and beat him again last night
Yeah.
in St. Louis, and now they play him 2 more times. But Milwaukee's already in, and as the so I don't see it.
you see San Francisco.
Yeah, the Dodgers they
They had
haven't-
their opportunities, certainly.
They have. They just haven't been hitting like they should, and they've still scored more runs than any team in the National League. And the Giants are catching them there, and we've given up the least amount of runs of any team in Major League Baseball, but which goes to our pitching. But I'm not sure they will win the division, the Dodgers, but I think. That they will beat St. Louis in the wild card game if that's what happens.
Even if St. Louis is on a 22-game winning
Yeah.
streak or whatever.
Yeah, they're on a 17-game winning streak, and they could end up at 22, correct? If they win the next 5, but I don't see it happening.
Okay.
And I don't see. I see the Dodgers beating the Cardinals if it's the wild card game, and it would be in LA. So.
Well, here's a weird prediction maybe. Will there be a game on Monday? Will there be a tie,
Well,
perhaps, for that wild card?
It's very possible that the Dodgers and Giants could tie. They would actually play that game on Monday, and it would be in San Francisco because out of the 19 times we played each other, they won 10 and we won 9. So that's how it would be decided. So that could happen.
Yes, Boston's reeling right now. It's a possibility. They'll be in there Monday playing a game against Seattle or Toronto. Yankees winning 7 straight. They look pretty strong as far as the wild card.
Right, and that's what happened this year. The Yankees haven't played as well as they were expected to play. They've been up and down and up and down. Boston's played a lot better than they were expected to play, and they've also started to, fall a little bit. But I still think they'll make it.
Well, I hope there's a game on Monday just to make things interesting. I hope it's the wild card. I've got money on San Francisco. I don't have any money on the Dodgers. I do have some
Right.
money on the Red Sox, but they're fading.
Yeah, and you're talking Monday would be if it was a tie.
If there was a tie for the wild card or a tie for the division.
Between,
Yes.
exactly, yeah,
Yes.
and if that could happen.
Absolutely. So who's going to come out of the American League?
I think Tampa Bay. I really believe Tampa Bay will. They will end up playing the wild card team because they have the best record. Tampa Bay does.
Oh, they do. Okay.
So they will play either, the wild card team. I'm thinking it will be Boston.
Really?
Actually.
You're going to take Boston
I am.
over the Yankees?
I am.
Okay.
And I think they will, and I think Tampa Bay will win that. And then it would be Chicago, the White Sox, and Houston playing each other.
Okay.
And I believe Houston will take that. So
Yeah, they certainly have more experience in the playoffs.
yeah, I just think Chicago, the White Sox have had a good year. I just
They played in a very poor division, too.
yeah. I just think Houston would win that.
Okay. And the National League, I'm going to assume you're picking the Dodgers. I know you predicted Tampa Bay and L.A. It was like, I don't know, a month and a half ago or so.
Right.
I think we were talking about making
Correct.
predictions.
Yeah.
Do you have any reason to have a change of heart as far as that's concerned?
No, I still think that's going to happen, actually. And the other Atlanta and Milwaukee, they would play each other in.
Well, Milwaukee's going to be a pretty heavy favorite there. You'd have to
And
think.
Milwaukee would be at home, and I believe they will win that.
Yes. With that pitching, I couldn't imagine.
Correct.
Yes. So when all is said and done, who's going to be crowned champion?
I think it's. And it's
Go ahead, say the
it's not
Dodgers.
just my heart. I really think the Dodgers will play Tampa Bay again, and the Dodgers will win.
Okay. Fair enough. We shall see. I don't really watch a whole lot of baseball, so I'm going to pick San Francisco for the heck of it, just to make it interesting.
Well,
I'm just going to pick the teams
phenomenal
I like.
Sure.
San Francisco and Boston. That's what I'm going to root for. I doubt very much that's what's going to end up happening. I don't think Boston's really going to make it. I mean, if I use my head, I'd probably pick Tampa Bay like you, but they're not a very flashy team. Nobody really watches Tampa Bay.
Right, they've got a really great team again, and it's funny when you say Boston because I've always been a Red Sox fan. I've always been a Celtic fan since I was a kid, and I grew up in L.A. So
wow.
The only L.A. team I really root for is the Dodgers, and but I do kind of root for the Kings in hockey, and now I find myself rooting more for the Rams, and we'll see what happens.
I'm kind of like that too. The Lakers are my favorite basketball team, and the Bruins are my favorite hockey teams. So
yeah,
things like that happen.
I grew
And
up with
I do root for the Red
back
Sox.
in the 80s and 90s with all the times the Celtics and the Lakers played, and all the parties and all the stuff. I had always bet the Celtics, and every single one of my friends was betting the Lakers. So I either won big or I lost big.
Right. So Ronnie, do we have any predictions for the end of the year awards?
Yeah, Joe. We're talking. I don't think anybody's really going to be able to win the Triple Crown, but when it comes to home runs, I think Vlad Guerrero is right there. But Salvador Perez for KC has pulled ahead in the home run thing with 47, but Guerrero's got 46. When it comes to the RBIs, Salvador Perez has 118. He's in the lead. Vlad is back at 105. So. We won't have any Triple Crown winners, but when we get to batting average, it's Gurriel from Houston right now at 317, and the Dodgers, Trey Turner's at 325, leads the NL and the whole league, major leagues at this point, with 5 games to go. Home runs, Tatis has got 41 for the National League. RBIs, it's Duvall for Atlanta, has 111. He's in the lead right now. But those things are still pretty close, so we'll see what happens. I think, Ohtani will be MVP. He actually, hitting and pitching. He'll probably be the MVP and should. The NL, I'd say Harper's making a real strong push for that. Tatis possibly, and maybe even Soto from from Washington. So when you come to the Cy Young, Robbie Ray from Toronto is pretty much in the lead with that over Garrett Cole from the Yankees. I think in the NL, it's between Scherzer and Burns. Scherzer from LA and Burns from Milwaukee. Woodruff from Milwaukee. Wheeler from Philadelphia. And Buehler from LA still have a shot at that. So then we go to strikeouts. Be Robbie Ray, also from Toronto, is in the lead, but Cole right behind him. And then in the National League, it'd be Wheeler is in the lead, and Scherzer right behind him, and Burns right behind him. So I think one other thing, the ERA. Earned run average, Scherzer's in the lead, Burns is like right behind him. And in the American League, it's Robbie Ray and Cole, the same two guys battling for that ERA lead. So,
Well, thank you, Ronnie. And we'll have you on again next week to talk some more Major League Baseball playoffs.
great, Joe. Thanks for having me, and we'll see you next week.
Our final guest today is huge hockey fan, Gator Gates. How are things going today, Gator?
Oh, I'm excellent, Joe. How are you?
Doing great. The National Hockey League season starts soon, a week from Tuesday on October 12th. With the last game having been July 7th, that will be the shortest offseason in NHL history. Does it really make a difference how long a break hockey players get?
Well, I don't think so, Joe. I think maybe a month off and then right back on it. I think in sports, period, when you have a layoff of about 2 months, your body is not there, not in shape. It takes a while to get back into shape, and especially when you start getting in your 30s. A lot of these athletes are in their 30s now. So no, I like it. I wish hockey was year-round, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Preseason games have been going on for a few days now. Can we learn anything from preseason?
As a fan, Joe, no, I don't think that there is really anything in there. You're looking at 5th, 6th line players that are going to be in, using a baseball term, AAA. I like watching the goalies. When I'm watching preseason, that's what I'm watching for, is the goalies, because they seem to be more apt to become starters within that first year than the first couple of games of the preseason. Now, the third game of the preseason is usually different. That's when they put all their starters out, just like in football.
So there's only like 3 preseason games this year?
Per team, usually, yes, per team.
Well, every preseason should be that short. That's excellent.
I agree.
The expansion Seattle Kraken have been added to the league this year, becoming the 32nd NHL franchise. But wouldn't an 8th Canadian team, such as Quebec, have rounded things out a bit more? 8 Canadian, 24 American. Maybe that might have been a better choice.
I would like to see a bunch of Canadian teams, but yes, I understand where you're coming from. Sure, to at least get one more in Quebec, like you say, or even Saskatchewan. Sure, I would like to see a lot more. They up there, yeah, they can have a bunch of teams. They can afford it. They can support it.
Yeah, well, it is their sport.
Exactly. I mean, look at their junior hockey. Their junior hockey is second to none junior hockey in the or any sport in the world, even soccer.
So, yeah, Seattle will be going for another championship. 1917, their last championship. Of
Yeah,
course.
and they just got done playing in Vancouver for their first game and beat them 5-3. And what I find interesting on that is Vegas' very first preseason game was against Vancouver, and they beat them 8-1.
Did you get plus money on Seattle in that first? I mean, could you get plus money on that? Did they? They did have odds on that game.
Yeah, they
You would
sure
assume
did.
Seattle would be an underdog
Dog.
in every game, even in the preseason.
Yeah, Joe, I really don't know. I wasn't paying attention to it. Actually, I really didn't know when the preseason was going to start. I just looked up on
Yep.
NHL Network, and there it was.
Me too. There it was.
I'd have to just tell you the truth there.
Well, it's time now for some predictions, Gator. And today we're covering the Eastern Conference. Who are the teams to look out for in the Metropolitan Division?
Okay, well, Joe, before I jump into that, when we're talking about division, we're talking about regular season hockey. Like I keep telling everybody, there's two different types of hockey. There's playoff hockey and there's seasonal hockey. So if we're talking about just regular season, I'm going to have to go within the Metro, the Islanders. I also like Carolina, but the problem with Carolina that I have is that they got rid of all three of their goalies in the offseason and brought in three new goalies. So I'm having a real hard time jumping on that bandwagon to beat the Islanders. But if you look at their over and under, Carolina's at a 97.5. Can they get there? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the under on that just because, like I said, their goalie situation. But they can compete in the Metro.
Right. That's 2 points for a victory, 1 point for an overtime or shootout loss. Add them all up, 97.5. I love your Islander prediction. Barry Trotz, my favorite coach. They also got Zdeno Chara on the team. I love that leadership, although he is, 44 years old?
Yeah.
He should be a help. Do you see anybody else from that division actually making the playoffs?
Oh, yeah, making the playoffs. I see the Islanders, Carolina, and you're going to get one out of the four teams out of that, which is the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Philly, and Washington. One of those teams are going to make it. But what I want to say, Joe, is on the Islanders, they're only at 98.5 as far as points. They should get 100. Not a problem. They should be in the 100. So I would think that would be one of the better bets.
Well, they've been improving every year since Strauss got there, so I would expect that also. But the Penguins, you say, have a shot. Their two best players, Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, are injured. I don't know how long they're supposed to be out. I thought I heard like a couple months.
Malkin is out for 2 months because of a knee surgery. Crosby, though, he had wrist surgery done on September 8th, and he's supposed to be back before Malkin. But, Joe, I just wonder the date, September 8th, on getting your hand surgery. I don't understand that whatsoever.
Waiting so long to get the surgery.
Yeah, you would think that this injury happened in the playoffs last year. You would have thought that they would have done it way sooner. I don't know. I just don't understand.
He didn't want to play the whole season, apparently. He wanted to skip the first month or so.
I don't know.
They are getting a little old, you know. These guys they're like 35, both of them. Maybe they don't want to play the whole year. Hey, you know, it's possible. How about the division? Who's going to make it to the playoffs from the Atlantic?
Well, I definitely think that Tampa Bay is going to win that division hands down. There is three other teams that you could look at. That's Boston, Toronto, and Florida. But Tampa Bay just plays – I compare them to like the Avalanche or the Vegas Knights on how skillful they are. And, of course,
Vasilevsky,
their goalie, you know, he's one of the best, if not the best. I think Varlamov is a little better. You can argue it.
Are you still on Fleury?
Oh, yes, I am on Fleury. He's getting up there in age, though, and I really I don't know how he really feels about everything that happened with him in Vegas going to Chicago. Is it like...
But he's going to play, though, huh?
Yeah, he's going to play, I'm sure, but he's getting up there, too. I really don't know. I just think that it was just a smack in the face for him. And I really don't know what kind of guy he is that can handle, you know, is he going to come out mad? Is he going to come out like Aaron Rodgers, knowing it's your last year? And what kind of guy are we going to get?
Okay, so you made your predictions for the division. You have Tampa Bay winning the division. You had Boston getting in.
Toronto. The thing about Toronto, Joe, is that this is so funny. We go through this every year with Toronto, that everybody preseason, and Toronto's going to be there. Toronto's going to do great and all this. Toronto, the books have them at 104 on the points. They're going to go under. They have for eons, until they show me different. I just cannot jump on that bandwagon, but they will make the playoffs. Most of those in the Eastern Division, most of the playoff teams are going to come from the Atlantic. Metro, I got the Islanders and Carolina and maybe one of those other four.
What are the points on Boston? Do you have that? It's like
102.
102. So they have Toronto finishing ahead of Boston.
No.
Okay.
And it's also one of the biggest jumps, too, to Toronto.
Yeah. Interesting.
Toronto went up. It was at 103, so now it's at 104. So it was an only 1 point jump. Florida's the biggest one. It jumped up 4 points from when the lines came out.
Florida was a heck of a surprise team last year.
Yes.
Much better than anybody.
Well, I love Coach Quinville. Coach Q.
Joel Quinville.
Oh, he's, to me, one of the best coaches out there.
Right. Yeah, he took a terrible team and got him to the playoffs and looking pretty dangerous.
Look, he did it in Colorado. He did it in Chicago. He did it in Florida. My hat just goes off to that guy.
Jack Eichel is out as the Sabre captain there in Buffalo. What happened there?
Oh, Joe, I don't know. Buffalo has so many problems, on field, off field, all the way from the top to the bottom. So to single out one problem, I'm really not sure. The books have them only winning 65 points, 30 games roughly. They'd be lucky to get that. I don't know, Joe. I don't even know if to go under or over. I have no clue when to make of Buffalo.
28 wins and 8 or so overtime losses. And
maybe they're like the New York Jets.
And 10.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, the Giants said the circus is down there. Kind of the same thing there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like Eichel showed up. Eichel just showed up out of shape is what it looked like from what I was reading. And so he didn't set a very good example for the rest of the team and lost his captaincy.
Well, that's just it. You don't think that's going to trickle down to the rest of the team? Come on, we need some leaders in Buffalo. I don't know. Like I said, it's all the way to the top. It's just not the players. It's all the way to the top.
Right. To that end, Gator, who will win the Eastern Conference?
Well, that's where I think Tampa Bay is not going to win the Eastern Conference because I don't think that they're a playoff team. Like I said, there's two differences. There's the regular season teams, or regular season hockey, and then there's playoff hockey. To me, I really like Buffalo, or Boston. I think Boston's going to beat the Islanders. The Islanders have been doing great every year for the last 5 years, getting better and better. They're going to be close. I just think that Boston, with Tuukka Rask, this is probably the last time Tuukka Rask is going to even have a shot for it. I don't know. I just really like the way Boston looks, and I love their way they play playoff hockey.
Well, I'm glad Boston and the Islanders aren't going to be in the same division this year like they were last year, the COVID year. I'm picking the same two teams, so I'm loving every bit of your prediction.
Oh, good deal.
Yeah. I've already got them to win the Stanley Cup, both of them. And that's about it for the Eastern Conference. Next week, we're going to talk about the Western Conference and make Stanley Cup predictions. But there's this one kid, Caleb Wagner, we need to start talking about a little bit. You guys kind of wanted to talk about him too, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. What a story this is, Joe. Caleb Wagner is from Baker, Florida, and is a senior at Baker High. He was born without a left hand and part of his forearm, but that sure doesn't seem to stop him any, Joe. He's a halfback, and he reeled off 535 yards and 6 touchdowns in last Friday's game over South Welton. Now, Derrick Henry did hold the record at 502 yards.
Yes. 25 rushes, and I guess he needed every one of those TDs because it was a 49-48 final. The guy's pretty amazing. A week earlier, he gained 267 yards on 4 carries, and they were up so big at halftime that he didn't even play the second half. My math is going to be like, 66 yards or so per carry. Pretty amazing runner. He's got one hand. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes to college. Remember, who was that? Jim Abbott, the baseball player, threw a no-hitter.
Yeah,
Had
that
one
was
hand.
really neat, yeah. He was a great pitcher. But as far as Derrick Henry, he did more with his size and his strength. He was more that kind of a runner, whereas Wagner is more of a speed and elusive runner. And not being able to stiff arm any opponents, he is more able to find the holes and burst through them. And those are the two different styles.
And as much as 535 yards is, it's not really that close to the high school record.
Yeah, that's crazy, Joe. What is the record?
722 yards in one game. A guy named Journey Brown in Pennsylvania only 6 years ago, 2015.
Right. And again, this Wagner kid, he could have broken that record, but the coach was taking him out of the games, which I agree that's what you should do.
Right.
But yeah, he could have been breaking those records as well.
And I don't know what Journey Brown is doing right now. Hard to say. Maybe this kid, though, will end up being a superstar college player.
I just keep thinking he's got to hold on to that ball.
Yeah.
I mean, gee, yeah.
What, if he gets hit,
Yeah, it's gone.
he doesn't seem to get hit a whole lot. He's running up and down the field.
Nobody can catch him.
Right. So how's NASCAR looking before we go, Gator?
Well, Hamlin got his first win at Vegas last week. He had 2 top 5s in 18 tries there before Sunday. And Larson was struggling with tires after he led the first stage. And Harvick, love Harvick. Yeah, he was never in position to pay back Elliott for the Bristol incident. But Harvick did say that he was the maddest that he's ever been and was like talking to a 9-year-old. They get hung up on one thing, and you can't speak to them about the broader picture. So now we're going on to Talladega. Who I really like is Kevin Harvick. Harvick's at 15-1. He is in 10th place right now. They're only taking 8 spots to the next round. So I think that he has to win to get to the next round. Charlotte is the next race after that, but I think this is his best chance. So I really like Kevin Harvick at 15-1.
Well, this is going to be pretty wide open, Talladega. Almost guaranteed to have that big wreck, if not 2, 3, 4 wrecks. So that's going to be the race to watch.
Correct,
sure.
I agree.
That's going to shake up the whole standings. And somebody who's supposed to advance isn't going to advance because of this race. I'm going to predict that.
Right, that goes back to why I think Harvick needs to win this race.
Right.
He would be in one of those that I would predict.
Well, thank you, Gator.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it so much. So fun being here.
Yes, we'll have you on again next week. We're going to also have you on later for our You Got Host segment.
Okay, great, Joe. Thanks.
Reviewing the Ryder Cup golf last weekend, sometimes the better team actually wins as the United States crushed Europe in the most lopsided Ryder Cup ever. Credit Captain Steve Stricker for putting together the youngest Cup team in history with 6 rookies and delivering the victory. My theory on the experience and Europe having won 9 out of the last 12 Ryder Cups, 7 out of the last 9, went completely out the window. Not a good pick. Congratulations to the United States. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time for the moments we've all been waiting for. The stories that make us furious about bets that appeared surely to be winners, but in the end something went horribly wrong and they ended up being losers. It's the segment we affectionately call You Got Hosed.
You got hosed.
So, Big Richard, do you have a You Got Hosed story this week?
Well, I was hoping I wouldn't, but I actually have one on Thursday. I'm with my cousin, Pistol Pete. We're at the Max. We're watching Marshall, and it was Marshall and Appalachian State. Yes, and Appalachian State was dropping 7.5, and we bet on them because there was nothing else to do. So we're like, hey, I'm going to take that 7.5. Marshall was down by 1. Appalachian State had the ball about on the 30. They're driving down in the bottom of the 4th quarter. Looks like they're going in. Running back breaks through on his way to the end zone. He takes a slide on the 5-yard line and runs the clock out. And I had to turn back from going to cash my ticket and go back to my cousin Pistol Pete.
Wow. But they were up 1. So
They were up 1. They would have covered it by the hook if he had scored that touchdown.
If he would have scored a touchdown, that would have been 7. The extra point would have been 8. That would have left open the possibility of the other team coming back and tying
Marshall
the game.
was so strong against him. That was actually the right move.
I can actually believe that was the correct move, yes, by leading by 1.
Except for if you were me, if you was listening to
But
me.
if you're betting on the game, then yes, you got host.
I did get hosed.
Yes, and everybody else who bet them. So, Gator, do you have a you got hosed moment for us?
Detroit Lions were at a plus 340 Sunday against Baltimore. The score was 16-17. Detroit leading when the Detroit kicked the ball into the end zone for a touchback. The Ravens had 1 minute and 4 seconds to get the ball to field goal range. Now, at the 26-second mark, it was 4th and 19. Ball was on the Baltimore 16. Jackson passed to Watkins to the left for 36 yards and got on Detroit 48-yard line. Now, I don't blame Detroit, or I don't think that anybody got hosed there. I think Detroit was just playing way loose and just let them, go, just like the Broncos did for years with that prevent defense. So I do blame Detroit on that. Now, the next play was an interception, or was an incomplete pass right down the middle. And so now we're at 2nd and 10 with about 6 seconds left on the clock. Now, the play clock goes down to 0 before the ball was snapped, and the ref didn't call it, didn't see it, and Jackson throws the ball out of bounds to the left side. So now, if they would have called that, instead of being a 66-yard attempt for Tucker, it would have been a 71-yard attempt, and I'm not exactly sure that they would have even gone for that. So I'd have to go back to the clock where the ref didn't catch the layup game. So I think that because of that, not because of the 4th and 19, but because of the refs there, I think that you got hosed if you had Detroit's money line. And Joe, do you have a you got hosed story?
Yeah, I got hosed, definitely, betting on the over on the NFL Seattle-Minnesota game. It cost me a 16 parlay. I needed 54 points. Halftime, Minnesota's winning 21-17. 2 touchdowns and a field goal in the second half would have got me there. But Russell Wilson, who was 7-0 versus Minnesota before last Sunday, managed 0 points the rest of the way in a 30-17 loss. 5 out of 6 on the parlay, Russell. You hosed me.
You got hosed.
Before we close the show off, we want to give an update. Journey Brown, after his high school career, went to Penn State, completed that career, and then learned he had a career-ending heart condition. And that was the end of his football life. So we wish him all the best. So that's it for this week. I'd like to thank my guests, Big Richard Martin, Ronnie McKinnon, and Gator Gates, our producer, our engineer, our editor, and everyone for listening. We'd like you to visit our Covering the Field website, and we'd like to remind you listeners to email us at coveringthefield@gmail.com. Give us your feedback, your You Got Hosed moments, and any other comments you'd like to give us, and find us on Twitter at Covering Field. And a special thank you again to all the firefighters and first responders battling the Nevada and California wildfires. Hopefully you all enjoyed the show, and you'll hear us again next week on another episode of Covering the Field.
You've been listening to Covering the Field, a CM World Services and LaSage production.